the Democrats are squandering whatever leads they had in the vote. In most parts of the country, I see a lot of the advantages that they had maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, are really slipping away. And I really question now whether they can take the House of Representatives at all, because in reality, people talk a lot about the generic ballot, which is, I think it's a basic polling mechanism where they just ask people around the country who they would vote for if they could vote for a congressperson. And that, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. This is, of course, a article from the Daily Beast. It says Obama plays offense in Las Vegas, says Republicans can't help themselves. So I'll put the link in the description. But they are, this is from the 22nd, which would be Monday. And only a few days earlier, it says Democrats fear Obama is going soft for the midterms. So the Democrats have had a consistent problem in midterm elections for a long, long time. The last time they won a midterm election, for those of you that are curious, is 2006, where they won both houses of Congress. Okay, the Republicans, on the other hand, won in they won in 1994, 1998, 2002, 2010, they won back the House, and they won the Senate and the House in 2014. So the Republicans have a much better track record of success in the midterm elections than the Democrats do. And I'll explain to you why. I think that this year the Democrats are going to have a very rough time trying to seize back either house of Congress. They still have a very good chance of winning the House, but what's the problem here? In many of the states where there is a Senate or gubernatorial election, the same issue, the same voters that go out and vote for the governor will take a look at the down ballot and possibly say, look, while I'm here, I'm also going to vote for this candidate. If this is a Democratic voter, they might vote straight blue all the way, and likewise for the Republican. But essentially, that's the problem with the congressional ballot, the generic congressional ballot. You go to certain states where you're seeing these trends going right now, where Republicans are either closing the gap against Democrats that they're trailing, whether it's Michigan or whether it's Indiana, where there was a poll released today where one of where the Democratic senator, the incumbent Mike Donnelly or Joe Donnelly, is losing for the first time in a long time to the Republican Mike Braun. In such a case where you see a bit of momentum to one side, the candidates down ballot start to absorb some of that energy, okay? Because the people who previously may have been going to vote for the other candidate, they are also possibly going to switch over entirely all of their votes, okay? And nothing is going the Democrats' way in terms of the news. The economy is not failing. There are stock market shocks. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that the entire economy is doing well, but a lot of the issues that are happening in the economy are due to economic problems in China, which we do feel the reverberations of. So I don't know if there's going to be a big economic collapse ahead. I do have my worries. Okay, so I'm not one of these head in the sand people. Worries in terms of the debt and in terms of the student loan crisis and other issues of the like. But on the whole, the economy is doing well enough to be an aid to Donald Trump going into the midterm rather than a hindrance for him. Then you have the issue of the Kavanaugh hearings, which we've talked about enough before, so I'm not going to go too long about that. But the Kavanaugh hearings have opened up a new issue where certainly there are male voters who believe that the Democrats are going to eliminate the presumption of innocence for accused men. And then on the other hand, a lot of women, as a result of the Kavanaugh hearings, have been polarized. You know, some of them are of course, they're the listen and believe people, or they may personally have an identification with Christine Blasey Ford and think that this Kavanaugh confirmation was a travesty and he shouldn't be on the bench. But there's also a significant amount of women who look at it as their final chance to reject feminism publicly, meaning that many of these women who are going to be going into the voting booth and end up voting for the GOP may not have much of a conservative belief system, but they may have become so turned off by feminism that they're willing to basically use this as an opportunity to stab the feminist leadership in the back. Okay, a lot of the main symbols of the Democratic Party, a lot of the main leadership are feminists. Nancy Pelosi, Kirsten Gillibrand, who's another one, Hillary Clinton. You know, there's plenty of people who are just, you know, they're into this whole movement of feminism. The Democratic Party is even more wrapped up in gender politics at the moment, I believe, than they are with racial politics, which is saying a lot. So the other element that I want to talk about with respect to the midterms is the fact that, you know, the Democrats. So we mentioned Kavanaugh, we mentioned, of course, the economy. The third element that's been going on is this migrant caravan, which, you know, I personally have never been one of these hardcore build the wall people. I've always believed that, you know, I personally, this was a blind spot for me going into 2016. I did not know, and I was really isolated. That was my bubble. I did not know how many people were really feeling the crunch because of immigration, or maybe because they believe it's immigration. So, you know, let's assume that we don't know whether American jobs are being threatened by immigration or immigrants are creating a lot of crime. Let's assume we don't know. I happen to have really come to the conclusion that we do have to control immigration, whereas before it wasn't really an issue for me. I didn't have an opinion either way. You could probably say I was a little more pro-immigrant before 2016. What's really moving people like me further and further towards the side of immigration control is the fact that the sanctuary cities have created basically parallel legal systems. It's as if a person commits, you know, in the United States, a person commits crimes in certain parts of the country. They just have this air as if, you know, they live in a special realm, and the rest of the country has to, you know, stay at arm's length from them. Those are legal criminal offenders. Again, now that there's this caravan coming here, it's just moving people like me closer and closer to the anti-immigrant right wing. Because ultimately, if there's an organized wave of immigration, an organized group of people that are coming and demanding to come into the country, that's not the tolerance for immigration I had. I think even if this would have happened in 2016 or before, when immigration was not a real issue for me, it would have instantly radicalized me against immigration, because you know, we do see in many elements of our culture, people know that there is a lot of crime coming in from the southern border. So that does play in especially well to the Trump agenda. The media knows this. The media has basically admitted that. And it's a losing issue for the Democrats. Okay, so the last topic I think I'm going to talk about for right now. It's pretty late and I am a little tired, but the Democratic media is really melting down, and the so-called progressive alternative is, in my opinion, going to be one of the first elements that begins to experience a lot of turmoil and fracture, and probably will fall apart completely, and it will have to reform itself. And nothing could be more indicative of that than TYT. This was a segment of the Politicon debate between not Kyle Kalinske, but Hassan Piker and Charlie Kirk. So let's see what happens here.
174,000.
Sorry, but the playback isn't working so well.
Salary a year. It's not like we're going to buy a second home anytime soon, but that's besides the point, okay? You're trying to attack me, which is ridiculous, like asking me what my salary is. Sure, I'll reveal it willingly.
You brought it up in context. I'm asking, why don't you live like a socialist?
Okay.
Go live like a socialist.
The point is larger. The point is larger than that, Charlie.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist. Okay?
So this is a great clip.
I live when I believe.
No.
What do I do? I get charity every single year.
Hold on.
What's my salary? Less than his.
Charlie, take a
Come on,
seat.
Shank, let's go.
Charlie,
What are you doing? Sit down.
Take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho?
All right, no. Take a seat. You're gonna take a seat. You're gonna take a seat over here.
Oh my God.
What's my salary?
All right.
Ridiculous. All right, behave, everyone. Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
Okay.
I practice what I preach, Shank.
Charlie.
You
Stop.
do not practice what you preach.
Charlie.
All right, hold on. Last point.
You don't want to give him the attention here.
Everyone,
35,000 donors across the country, my friend Shank. We are funded by the grassroots of this country. You can try to demagogue it all you want.
Okay. Can I finish my point?
All right.
Less than Hassan's. You
Hold
can
on.
check it yourself.
Charlie. Let me finish my point. All
right.
Right? We're having a reasonable discussion, right? We're here, we're talking to one another. Let's stop screaming at one another, including those of the Young Turks who obviously don't pay me enough. So, so here's what I was trying to say.
So this was a case where Piker surprisingly was able to maintain control of himself, but Cenk Uygur, who is his uncle and his boss, lost his cool in the audience at Politicon, started shouting at his nephew's debate opponent, Charlie Kirk. That's how the Democratic Party is behaving nowadays. And notice Kirk doesn't back down. He doesn't take shit from Cenk Uygur. And I would say this, okay? There was a time in my memory when there were people on the left who were able to kind of present themselves as normal, as being reasonable actors, people that could have a conversation and possibly enlighten other people, at least enlighten in their own way. And those people are increasingly rare. And instead you have idiots like Cenk Uygur. Who are some of the people I would say are of the first category? This Tom Hartman guy who I watched a video of his a couple days ago seems like that type of guy. Bill Maher, to a certain extent, is a reasonable person. Dave Rubin, who's been completely ostracized by the left. There are not a lot of very rational people on the left that can be basically an anchor for people to flock around. Instead, they have this raging buffalo man, Cenk Uygur. And in fact, it hasn't worked for the network. They look increasingly intolerant and stodgy to the audience. And they ended up having to lay people off. This is from The Wrap. I believe we covered it earlier this year. So it says the Young Turks slashes staff, drops entertainment programming. This is from August 28th. So Cenk Uygur, he's been getting a lot of seed money, I believe, from Jeffrey Katzenberg, who I think is one of the founders of DreamWorks Studios. That effectively makes him part of the corporate media. And what's going to happen if the Democrats take the House, I don't think it necessarily helps the Young Turks. But they're definitely, I mean, they definitely should be happy because at least it's some gain. It's some good news for the Democrats. And they need good news if they want to. They need good news. They need they need a lot of good news now because they haven't gotten anything that would give them a reason for hope. I don't think that they're going to be able to impeach Donald Trump. The whole Mueller investigation is likely to end next month. There's already reports in Politico saying that whatever is the real root of this whole issue might never be known to the average person because Rod Rosenstein gets to decide what parts of the report go public. Okay, and Rod Rosenstein is at the moment just hated on both the left and the right. So good luck with that. No, I think the Young Turks are in big trouble, whether they win the election or they don't win the election. If the Democrats win the House, then the Young Turks will probably be embroiled in a lot of the civil war within the Democratic Party between some of the more radical wings and some of the more centrist wings, and it's not gonna bode well for the party or the organization, or meaning the Young Turks. If they lose, the Young Turks effectively become a scapegoat. Some of the centrist Republicans will start saying, well, they tried to influence our party negatively. The candidates that we nominated based on their recommendations, meaning the voters, will say, you know what, we don't need somebody who's a far leftist, such as what's that guy's name? Amar Campa-Najjar, for example, over in San Diego. Maybe he does win, but if he doesn't win, it sends a message to the party that this type of policy is simply not going to make much headway in that district. So the next time an election rolls around, somebody more moderate will take over for the Democrats. Somebody more moderate and more refined will basically take over, and then the Young Turks are on the out, and they should be on the out. They've been wrong on so many things. They've been basically sticking their head in the sand the entire time. So I would say this, okay, and I'm going to try to talk about this more at length a different time when I have some more energy, but if the Democrats do choke in this election and lose both houses, you are going to see a lot of people on the air, these so-called personalities, Malcolm Nance and Max Boot, the Russiagate people. They're going to have to justify their salaries given the fact that they've been wrong about everything. And you're going to see a bloodbath in terms of people trying to keep their job, people turning against each other, saying, well, this person misled the public and I was kind of basing my bullshit on his bullshit. I think that something like that could happen if the Democrats lose both houses of Congress. That's about it. Please like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my other channel, Razor Ray Live Wounds, and I will see you guys later. Also comment on the video when it uploads, and please contribute to my Patreon if you can.